Hi guys, it's Sophie. So I wanted to make another video about podcasts. You guys really seem to enjoy the last one I did, and I listen to an awful lot of podcasts, so I thought I'd just recommend a few more. They aren't all going to be storytelling ones like they were last time. It's going to be a bit of a mix, so I'll just give you a little idea of what they're about. And if you are interested, then you can go and check them out, and where they have links I will leave them down below for you. The first one I want to mention is one that has been one of my favourite podcasts for a really long time. I think the content is absolutely brilliant. I think the idea behind it's brilliant, and the delivery is just, it's so good. And it's called 99% Invisible. So the sort of idea behind this podcast is talking about the design of the world we live in. So as you're probably aware, you know, everything that we have around us, everything that's human based has been designed by someone. Someone has thought this is a good idea, this is a bad idea. And it's talking about all the things we don't see. So like one of my favourite ones is, there's one that's around like something called a Norman door, which is a door that is difficult to tell whether you're supposed to pull it or push it. So it's a poorly designed door, and how the psychology of interacting with things plays into designing stuff like doors. So what would the brain interpret as a good way to inform someone to push a door? So stuff like that. It's so interesting. Like it's one of those things where I listen to them and I want to like tell everyone, or I just see them everywhere, and it just gets me really excited. It's on a whole range of things. They all sound really geeky, like flag design and what does it mean to have a good flag, what's a good flag, what's a bad flag, but they're so good. So if that sounds even vaguely interesting to you, then I really hope you check this one out. The next one is a music podcast, but it's so much fun. It's called Song Exploder, and this is something that I had wanted for a really long time. I didn't know it existed, and then suddenly found it and was like, I've been waiting for this since I was like 8 years old. It takes songs and it breaks them down into each of their parts. So you start out with, I don't know, say someone trying to put together like the drum section of a song. And you'll go through like why they've chosen the specific rhythm, what instrument are they using on this, what constraints do they have, if any. So does anyone in the band even play the drums? Is it all going to be synth? And they go through and they build up through all the different instruments, all the different vocals, the way they've got them, what the lyrics of the song mean to them, and then you get a full playthrough of the song afterwards, and it's like a proper, I don't know, it's like a little bit of an experience with these musicians, and it is just great fun. I feel like it makes me understand the music a lot more and makes me appreciate music a lot more, because I'm not someone who's like mega into music, but I do obviously enjoy listening to music, and it's just nice to have a little bit of an inside view, I suppose, on it. The next one is just kind of getting an honourable mention, because it's a new podcast from the Night Vale guys, and if you've seen the last video, Welcome to Night Vale is one of my favourite podcasts. It's one of the first podcasts I listened to sort of religiously, properly, and they've just started a new podcast called Alice Is Not Dead. So far I prefer the style of this story to Night Vale, and that's really exciting. So Alice Is Not Dead is about a woman who is driving a truck across America. And as she drives, she's speaking to an ex-girlfriend, who is Alice. So, you know, from the title we know Alice isn't dead, but what else do we know? Not a lot. It sounds like maybe they've broken up, maybe Alice ran away, but she's discussing her life, who she is sort of as a person, who she's developed as a person, as well as these weird happenings that are going on around her, because it's Night Vale, so there's like a town where every time she drives down the road, the town will just come back, and every time it's like in another awful position. So one time she drives through and everyone has turned their backs to her and is crying, and she can hear them crying through the window, or another one where everyone is on fire, and it's just got that stunning Night Vale writing style, but it's got that really like personal edge to it as well, and it's great fun so far. I think we're only 6 episodes in, but jump on that bandwagon, jump on it now. And then the next two I want to share are funnier podcasts, because I think podcasts are, or can be, absolutely hilarious, and they're a really nice way just to sort of block time out. So if you are like walking somewhere or going on a long train trip or travelling or whatever, it's really nice just to have something to focus on, and for me sort of comedy fits really nicely into that. So the first one is one you may well have heard of, but if you haven't, if you're not UK based, then it's definitely worth checking out, and that's called The Bugle. The Bugle is a satirical podcast. It's heavily satirical, and it is probably one of my favourite sort of satire-based things that's out there in terms of TV, books, sort of other media. They are so funny. They talk about sort of current events, mainly UK-based current events, but they'll cover sort of other topics that are going on as and when. The pair of them, they record very infrequently, so if you're someone who needs like a weekly update, it's probably not the podcast for you, because it might be 1 month, 2 months in between each episode, but they're so worth it. When I first found them, I was sitting in my bed just giggling, and I couldn't stop laughing. I woke my brother up because I was laughing so hard, and I brought him in and made him sit down, and the same thing happens every time I listen to their episodes. So I'll go back through the backlist if I'm having like a hard day, or if I need to get myself up in the morning and I want to feel happy and positive. They're so funny. Please check them out if you haven't heard of them. And the last one I have is like a wild card. So I don't think this is going to be for everyone, but it's really for me. So I just want to share it with people. And I'm a little bit nervous about sharing this with you. It's not one that I normally recommend to people, and here I am doing it on the internet. But it's a podcast called Last Podcast on the Left. And what it is a comedy podcast based around like the most horrible, dark things you can imagine. So they are talking like war, they're talking terror, they're talking serial killers, they are talking massacres, they're talking like horror stories, like all the bad things that humans do. And they are so funny. It's really irreverent. I would say that they never ever make fun of the victims of these sort of attacks, of these of the murders, of whatever it is they're talking about. They'll never make fun of the victims. They're making fun of the people who are being an asshat and have done this to someone else. But still, if you are someone who is of a sensitive type, if you're someone who is offended by sort of that sort of thing, this is probably going to offend you. I feel like a little bit of a bad person sometimes when I listen to Last Podcast, but it's one of the funniest things I've ever found in my entire life. And I have sort of connected. I've listened to them for nearly 2 years now. I feel like I've properly connected, and I can't imagine a time where I don't have Last Podcast every week in my life. So I have to share it with you, and maybe some of you will like it. Please, if you go away and you take from this video that you should just go and see Last Podcast and you hate it, please don't like attack me, because it is irreverent, it is offensive, and it is the darkest humour that I've ever heard. I have a very dark sense of humour. It's humour that makes me go like, oh my god, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So those are my 5 further podcast recommendations for you all. Let me know if you decide to check any of them out, or if any of them sound completely appalling to you. And as I said in my last video, if you have any recommendations for anything you think I might like, then I would love to hear about them. Whilst I'm overloaded with podcasts all the time, I always get excited to find something else to dive into. I've started listening to, I can't remember what the numbers are, Wolf 359, which someone recommended to me, and Tanis. I've started listening to both of those. So thank you to whoever suggested I listen to those. I can't remember who it was, I'm afraid. But I am really enjoying both. So yeah, any recommendations, leave them below. I'm going to shut up now. And I'll see you soon in my next video. Bye bye.